What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. No intro today. There's just there's too much going on. And if you guys didn't check it out, we did a great episode with Guy Swan yesterday. And then I had an whole episode prepared from my time out at Key West because I was still reading the news. And I got Gene Epstein coming on tomorrow because we had some leftover questions that I wanted to ask him. And I don't think we're going to get to any of them because he sent me like 1,000 pages of documents. So it's probably going to be a deep dive on employment stuff. And, it's nice to get actual information amongst all the chaos and nonsense that's out in the wild. But let's get right into it. We'll do nonsense talk later in the episode. And we're going to do some paywalled content in the end. You guys can join me at robbernsteincomedy.com and help support the work, help support all the efforts that go in, the intros, the producer man. We're running a big operation here, everybody. But let's start off with the Lutnick Lunchtime expedition. This is the latest that after Lutnick said that, I'm done with this guy. I got nothing to do with him. Apparently, he was on the island, and he stopped there for some lunch. And, who are we to question a rich man on where he eats some lunch? Sometimes you're on a wealthy vacation with your kids, and you threw your chef overboard, and you've got no choice but to stop for a nice island lunch. Now, I would think if you're already out on the boat, you probably got your bathroom on the boat, or maybe there's no bathroom on the boats. Maybe that's why the millionaires need to become billionaires, and then the billionaires need to become quadrillionaires because they can't have their kids shitting off the side of the boat. And so once you're out on the boat, you need increasingly more money so that you can eat better lunches. And sometimes you got no choice. You got hungry kids who are yelling at you. You thought you made enough money that you got a nanny that you shouldn't have to deal with your hungry kids. And even though you don't like talking to your pal Epstein, you're just casually boating past the island. You're like, man, you know what? Maybe I can call up that Epstein guy. Maybe he'll have us over for lunch. And then Epstein goes shit, and he's got to rush all the kids into the basement. But I'm just saying, we're jumping into a lot of conclusions here over what could have been just a nice lunch with his kids who were starving, who were sick of eating rich boat food. They didn't like what the chef prepared. They didn't pack any peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And we all know Epstein, he's got the good kid snacks. We know he's got the Drake's cakes. We know if you've got a bunch of hungry kids and you didn't pack good enough snacks for your boat expedition, that if you need snacks for your kids, Epstein's Island, that's the place to stop. I mean, you might want to make it a quick stop and you might want to keep a watchful eye on those kids. But if you've got hungry kids on a boat, and you need some kid snacks so that they'll shut the fuck up and you can try and enjoy the vacation that you paid for, you know what? Listen, I'm not looking to have anyone's back on this. And clearly, there are some horrible things that took place involving Jeffrey Epstein, but I'm not here to criticize where or how a man eats lunch. All right, let's take some comments because we do have a lot to get into. But, we covered a lot of serious ground with Guy yesterday. We're going to be covering serious ground tomorrow with Gene, so, we can talk a little bit of nonsense here. Red Rum. Oh, hey, Robbie, I'm doing magical masturbation. It's where I play Magic the Gathering with myself. Do you masturbate while you do it? All right. Amflux. Can't really expect anything different at this point. All right, so let's get into it. We got all sorts of stuff going on, got things to address, and this is the end of the show. We shouldn't be at the end of the show. Come on, producer, man. I just gave you a raise. I thought we worked out the kinks and the details here. Let's start with this because, I even had a close pal yesterday who sent me a similar article going, look, why are we even talking about these Epstein files anymore? Because I opened up the newspaper, and although the AP is not a newspaper, but, it's a mainstream news organization, and they're not the only one who published articles just 2 days ago with information such as FBI concluded Jeffrey Epstein wasn't running a sex trafficking ring for powerful men, files show. And what a wonderful circle jerk of nothing to see here. The FBI concluded, and the mainstream media reported what the FBI concluded. So everybody, case closed. Get your boosters. Get yourself another vaccine shot. There's no reason. You know what? If you're going to meals with relatives and they can't shut the fuck up about what's going on with this Epstein guy and how our government is run by pedophiles. They're run by people who are eating the organs of little kids, carving down into tunnels, getting blackmail on everybody to ensure that there's war forever. Listen, that's nonsense talk, because yesterday, without doing any of my own research, without reading anything, I saw a headline on the AP that let me know that the FBI has already concluded that there's nothing to see here. And the fact that that works on anybody, the fact that there's anybody still left in this country that can read a headline that lets you know that mainstream media is getting the back of the official narrative of the FBI. Why do these organizations even exist? They don't have any questions about what the FBI is concluding. There's no questions on it. There's no rundown on, well, the FBI is telling us that there's absolutely nothing to see here, but here's the following 10 million tweets from individuals who actually opened up some of the emails and have seen some strange usage of words such as beef jerky, have seen emails about watching torturing videos and enjoying it, trying to make arrangements for when I can have a pizza, all sorts of people having conversations about when they can go to a party with a guy who clearly was a pedophile. I think that part's clear. And yet, there's people out there that just can look at a headline like this and go, all right, it's conclusive. The media companies, they did their job. They read through all these files. They read through all the internet chatter, so I don't have to. They distilled it down, and they came back to let me know that, hey, the FBI concluded that there was nothing to see here, so good enough for me. There's nothing to see here. And I'm working on a new news website to really, hold the feet to the fire of these news organizations when they get things wrong, because let's see if they stick to this story of nothing to see here. And maybe we should all do our job. And I don't know that it's your job. I don't even know that it's my job, although I'm working on a website that's going to do this, to log every single media organization yesterday that was pitching the narrative, hey, case closed, FBI said nothing to see here. I mean, you might as well be but just play Kash Patel on repeat. Guys, there's no reason to look into whether or not Epstein killed himself. The official reporting is already that he did. Kash Patel is claiming to see the video. So honestly, we can close our newspaper. There's no reason for us to bring you any news or information, because when they make contradictory statements later on, such as putting out a video with missing minutes, and we'll look at some of the latest on that, I mean, you might as well just go, why have the news organizations? Why not just have these organizations put out their official reports, like the FBI just says its conclusion, and we can just have state media, we all log in, you can look at it, and just be done. And then we can save ourselves the hassle of even having to look at the different headlines of the way that they try and present to you exactly the government's perspective on any particular topic. I mean, it's fairly incredible that can be the summation from the AP of what the current situation is, and that anybody could look at that and go, oh, yeah, look at this. Look at this. Everyone that I know that has any interest in this story whatsoever, or has quoted to me an off-putting email that surely seems to suggest that there's a bigger story here, that's just my lunatic friends who don't have lives, spend too much time on the internet, don't go on enough dates, don't leave their house enough. And, what am I going to listen to these lunatics when the AP tells me otherwise? All right. And then all of a day later, I mean, Raskin, I talked about this on the part of the problem that will be coming out later today, but Raskin has to be one of the worst people in all of government. He's just been, I don't know. He was all over, if I remember, the Trump collusion stuff, Trump-Russia collusion. He's just one of these guys who's on the Democratic side, who's, I guess, one of the slicker and louder talkers. And on just about every single issue, I strongly disagree with him and think he's doing the bidding of basically the Democratic Party. I'm trying to think what else comes to mind immediately of just things I have seen him be incredibly wrong on. He combats with Jim Jordan quite a bit, and he's always kind of a real whiny Jew about the decorum of the way that the congressional hearings go on, and is just I've never seen him be right on anything. But even it's amazing that even the people that you hate that get everything wrong, every once in a while, I guess even on this issue, they seem to take the right side. And this was reported by the New York Post. Unredacted Jeffrey Epstein files reveal sickening revelation about 9-year-old as GOP lawmaker threatens to expose names. One of Jeffrey Epstein's youngest victims was just 9 years of age, lawmakers revealed after reviewing the Justice Department's cache of unredacted investigative files. The sick disclosure came after Rep. Jamie Raskin and several others spent hours inspecting the trove of documents Mondays as lawmakers tried to investigate how the well-connected financier was able to sexually abuse underage girls for years. You read through these files, and you read about 15-year-old girls, 14-year-old girls, 10-year-old girls. Raskin told the top Democrat of the House Judiciary Committee told reporters. And so the latest is that they finally made files available to be reviewed without the redactions for members of Congress. We just did a whole part of the problem. I recorded earlier, and it's coming out later today, but we went on about Massie's efforts that within just 2 hours, he forced the Justice Department's hands to admit that there are co-conspirators, and that was just in 2 hours. Apparently, there's also a storyline of that information was redacted before it even got to the Justice Department. And then we've got the fun part that we're still just in round one of this. I mean, Massie has led an incredible effort of not letting up on this. He's like he's like a dog that's bit into the deep state's balls, and he's just got it. And they're trying to squirm away. They're trying to say nothing to see here. All right, we'll give you this information. And they keep thinking that they're going to put it behind them. But every single time they give us a little tinge of information, they're running into two problems. One problem is that they're still just not being honest, and they're not giving us all of the information. Then you have giving us all the information really isn't enough because it demands the question of, well, why is it that you guys haven't investigated this? And why is it that you've come to the conclusion that there's nothing to see here when there's clearly something to see here? And then there was a third one, but as I mentioned, the first two, I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah. And then there's also, I think that was one. All right, we'll just move on. Well, I made two good points. 2 good points was pretty good. I know I promised 3 good points, but I went 2 for 3 there. So, you got to give me some credit. All right, and then this was the Leslie Wexner being unredacted. And of course, the Justice Department's going to have to answer for, well, they're spinning all sorts of stories here. And the plus side of this is that there's more information to come out. They still have got, 2 million unreleased files and more people digging into improper redactions, which also include all the emails sent as to why we can't see. I can't imagine victims were a large proportion of the emails to Epstein about enjoying pizza or looking for an invite to a party or discussions about financial conversations. I can't imagine that the victims are most of the emails being sent to Epstein. So there's still a lot that will have to be unredacted. All right, let's take a couple comments, and then we can move on to new information that has come out in regards to the supposed story that Epstein has killed himself. Affix. Bill Maher apologized to QAnon about Pizzagate, which is a hilarious claim from the 4chan board poll, which was created by the same day the creator Moot exchanged emails with Epstein. Amflux, would it be worse if they said grape drink? It sounds a little grosser. I don't know that it's any worse. Red rum, it would be worse if they actually drank it. I can agree with you on that. Amflix, did they reference fortune cookies, like probably Asian kids? I did not see a reference to fortune cookies, but Affix is saying that there is. Affix, Gates and Epstein planned the pandemic and control strat way ahead of time. The 4chan board that birthed QAnon was funded the same day. Didn't I already read that? All right. Slobbern, he's probably alive, will not surprise me at this point. It wouldn't surprise me at this point either. And this is kind of fun, but I've talked about him before, but when I was in Astoria, I used to eat at the same pizza shop every night, and oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of the pizza place. It was a great pizza spot, and the guy who owned it, Louis, man, do I have to go over things in my head. But he was the first one that said it, dude. The day that Epstein died, he's like, that guy's back in Israel. He's like, they snuck him out. He's not dead. He's still alive. He was the first person I heard say it. All right, so the latest, though, and this is in files from the FBI, was that they had a fake out on cars. They admit to the orange blob. And then I think the most nefarious is that they wiped the hard drive. I guess there was one working camera, and they were told that if they remove the hard drive out, it's going to wipe the whole thing, and they removed it. And this is all written out in the FBI documents, but hey, he killed himself. Kash Patel and Diaper Face know it for sure. They've seen it, except that the documents themselves do seem to suggest some I mean, we all know he didn't kill himself. But and we're seeing crazy videos of some guy in Tel Aviv who looks like him. You're looking at pictures of the corpse. They don't quite look like Epstein, and people want to say that it's what is it, Clinton's brother-in-law? Is that the conspiracy theory? But listen, according to the AP, the FBI has done its job. They've already concluded that there's no co-conspirators, even though all it took was Thomas Massie looking at the documents for 2 hours, and then the Justice Department going, oh, sorry, we shouldn't have redacted that. And a little bit of, well, it was redacted from us because it showed up to us redacted. But here you have it. For those who still just want to take the official story, you've got that they had 2 vans to do a deke out, and that someone, they used boxes and sheets to create what appeared to be a human body, which was put into the white Acme vehicle, which the press followed. So they deked out the press with a fake orange blob of stuff. And, of course, we're only hearing about this because in the edited camera of his cell that we saw, people did pick up that there was a orange blob in the background. And I'm sure if that hadn't made it into the newspapers, then we wouldn't be seeing this file either. That's the other thing. This is the stuff that after they had time to sift through came out and was redacted. The idea that this is everything that they have and they can't go, whoopsie, there's even more files than the 2 million files that we've redacted. And that's one of the actual plus sides of this. Another thing that you're going to hear me repeat later on is that some of these people must be really squirming because they have no idea what's coming out next. Like if you're Lutnick and you lied through your teeth and said, I had nothing to do with the guy after I saw the massage table, because what you heard was the FBI was sat down, Kash Patel was going to cover for you, Pam Bondi wasn't going to move forward with any of this, and then a couple months later and the files come out and you get caught in that lie, you must be wondering, are you guys putting out the other 2 million emails? Am I able to look at those, make sure I got my story straight? Is there any other information that might be coming out here? The elites, they're in a tough position right now because the internet is not letting up on this, and there is still so much more to unearth and so much more public demand to actually get to the information. FBI doing their job, yes, of covering up what happened. Junior toxicity, Kash Patel will get to the bottom of this. Kash Patel will hopefully be out of a job soon. At AFIX, more information needs to be found on the Rothstein Ponzi scheme. Seems highly related in the largest file size documents. That I'm actually not familiar at all. If you want to shoot me an email with that one, robsnewsroom@gmail.com, or in the chat right now, give us some of the deets. I'll read it off. All right, let's roll this clip. Let's see what we got here.
NBC News broke the story today. I don't know if you saw it, that the Democrats are already saying if you bring President Bill Clinton and he has to testify, we're bringing President Trump.
You guys have sound on that?
I think they might say that, you know, but they've already brought me. See, I've been brought. They had me indicted many, many times. Many, many times.
And the president had some surprising thoughts about former President Bill Clinton.
It bothers me that somebody's going after Bill Clinton. See, I like Bill Clinton. I still like Bill Clinton.
What do you like about him?
I liked his behavior toward me. I thought he got me. He understood me. You know, he was the one that said very famously that you don't want to run against Trump when there were 18 people. There was 18 people, including me, total. And he kept telling them, you don't want to run against Trump. Run against anyone. Don't run against Trump. and Hillary sort of laughed at him.
I like Bill Clinton. Why do you like Bill Clinton? Well, because Bill Clinton likes me. And so, I don't really have any values other than what people think about me. And he paid me that one compliment one time, and so that's good enough for me. No, the reason why you don't want them looking at Clinton is because you've been saying that there's nothing here. You don't want anybody digging in. And so you actually don't want to be playing the political game of going after political enemies who might have been involved with this, because you know that shots might be fired back your way. And I guess even if it's not you directly implicated, maybe it's people around you that are, or you're covering for the deep state apparatus because now you're in over there and the CIA gave you a little talking to and said, hey, we do quite a bit of this stuff, and it's actually the only way that we're able to run our organization is if we have proper blackmail on the politicians. And so this is really crucial to what we're doing. And unless you want us going after you on your way out, or to have to constantly be making more motions while you're giving speeches and really ducking and weaving so that the snipers that we send out there and leave alone on roofs can have more opportunities to take clean shots at you, you better let this one slide away. All right. Now, this was an odd story. This was in the New York Post. Here, first I'll take this comment from Afix. DOJ site search EFT blah, blah, blah .pdf. And although I'm not reading it off, there is video of this, so anyone who wants to look it up can come here. And I respect that you're putting the specifics in here, and you're letting people be able to go validate it. It's 2,400 pages long. I've decoded it partially, but it contains a likely unredacted PDF in something format about the Rothstein Ponzi scheme. Can be found with perplexity, etc. Well, I like that there was the specifics on which document was. I don't like that it's 2,400 pages long and that you're not giving me any more information other than Rothstein Ponzi scheme, which I'm not familiar with. All right, let's move on to this next article that I have here, which is an odd one. We've already covered in detail the claims that Jeffrey Epstein had a small and egg-shaped penis. We've also delved into the oddity of needing to take Viagra so that you can have this much sex. I understand you've been married for a while. You don't find your lady that attractive, or maybe you're getting laid every once in a while, so you want to get your hands on some Blue Chew, and, it's like enlarging your stomach because you only go to a nice buffet every once in a while, and it's an all-you-can-eat buffet, and you're like, I don't know when the next time I'm going to be getting fancy foods like this. I better enjoy all my fancy food. But the idea of going through all of the trouble that he's going through to have sex while he's got a very low libido, not a very nice and engaging penis, and you almost got to admire his lack of shame to be wanting to have as much sex as he is with his. Wouldn't you want less people to know about your egg-shaped penis? Wouldn't you want to use your wealth and power to sucker one lady and then just have her keep it to herself for the rest of her life? But this is almost in a way like creating the storyline, hey, maybe this guy wasn't having as much sex as he claimed, or maybe that's why he's got to go for kids so that they don't realize that it's odd-shaped, which is disgusting and horrible. But the whole topic's disgusting and horrible. But I realized that in terms of getting an orgy started with wealthy elites, this must be a superpower that, people are coming to your island, and maybe they're shy about partaking in the orgy, and then you show up, you drop chow, and you're like, listen, I barely have a working penis, and I had to have my prostate cleaned and pumped so that this horrible tiny penis could even work. You got nothing to be embarrassed about here, bud. Whatever your thing looks like, you know what I mean? To start the party, he's dropping chow and being like, listen, nobody's got it worse than I do here, so just kick back and have some fun. All right, and then I guess that's enough of the Epstein topic for today. But for those that want more coverage, we did an entire hour of it on Part of the Problem. Should be out at 9 p.m. And luckily, every single time you open up Twitter, you can see the most insane thing you've ever seen. And then I'm just kind of waiting for the dust to settle a little bit. I do feel like we're in round one of the fight. Thomas Massie's winning. The Donald Trump administration was looking to brush this one under the rug. He won a Freedom of Information Act to get this information out. Not all of it's even been released. A lot of it's been improperly redacted. Some heads have already rolled, not in our country, but you've had people in the UK forced to step down from positions. And I think the story is only going to grow as we're seeing, oh my God, how come our government never investigated this? And the FBI just turned around and said, nothing to see here, no client list, we're moving on, Democratic hoax. I think all of that's clearly not true. And there's so much more information that can come out that I think will come out. And I think that there's going to be more of a public demand for actual accountability and an investigation. So I listen, I like the way the story's developing. Afix, the Mother Jones interview Jeffrey Epstein, my very sick pal, is pretty hilarious, dude. Epstein's friend straight up asked the interview how much cash he wants to just go away at the end. Junior Toxicity, Robbie, did you see Nick DiPaolo's email exchange with Epstein? I saw that, not in a direct format. I must have seen it on another podcast, so I don't know enough about it. But I heard Louis Black talk about on a podcast how he went there because they wanted to meet Woody Allen. And even I just did You Know What, Dude, and Ron Bennington was on the show, and he was granted an invite to that party and turned it down because he didn't want to go to Epstein's house. But I can understand being a comic and a whole bunch of comedians are going over to this guy's house and you want to have dinner with Woody Allen. And I don't know that anyone suggested that anything horrible has taken place at that dinner. And it also sounds like Nick DiPaolo, after that engagement, decided, hey, I want nothing to do with this guy. But at least the version of that email I saw had something along the lines of considering what happened at the end of the evening, which does make you wonder what happened at the end of the evening, which might be as simple as that he didn't find out until the end of the evening that Epstein was a pedophile, or, who knows? Listen, Nick DiPaolo is one of my all-time favorite comics, and the few times I met him, he couldn't have been a cooler dude. So while I'm willing to make all the assumptions about the elites and for all of these politicians, I have no reason to suspect that Nick DiPaolo was engaged in any goofy behavior. Stand up for Nick DiPaolo, but shame everybody else. Take that away from this podcast. I don't think Nick ate a child or anything. No, nor do I. And maybe we got to check out Nick DiPaolo's show. I'm sure he's got a funny story about it. No one's funnier than Nick DiPaolo. I'm sure he's got a funny take on it. All right. Ilhan Omar's winery exposes fake shell for alleged money laundering. And to give you guys the short on this, it's incredible how many people go into Congress and then leave with shit tons of money. And it seems like most of them are doing it off of stock trading. But there's been some very scandalous tales about Ilhan Omar and how much wealth, I guess not necessarily she's generated, but that her husband has generated since she got into office. And one of the storylines is that the winery that they have is worth a fortune. And this article outlines the fact that it does not appear to be a legitimate winery. So this is the highlighted line. She detailed the revenue surge in 2024. They made about $15,000, and in 2025, it exploded up to $5 million, yet they weren't producing any wine. And someone's got to run. I mean, listen, I think that this next election cycle is going to be open for people that want to pick up the mantle on Donald Trump's failed because he just dropped the ball on America First and draining the swamp. But I think that a lot of outside characters can step in and run on, we got to clean up DC. And I think there's a massive opportunity. Someone's got to run on the zero fraud campaign. We're getting rid of all of the fraud, all of it. And we're going to create an independent agency that's going to investigate every single person in Congress type deal. And then I'm sure that'll become a fraudulent agency that will end up working for the CIA and then just digging up dirt on political enemies such as the outsiders that came in. And, you got, that's the thing. It's like any business, you got to grow, you got to evolve, and you got to figure out new schemes so that you can blackmail the outsiders. who are trying to clean the system up. But I almost feel like we need like a GoFundMe, because what do we want to be taxed more so that they can actually investigate Epstein and get rid of all the get rid of all the fraud in government? Like, that would be great if we could select, hey, how do you want your tax dollars used? And you could select 0% of my tax dollars to the military and 0% to benefits for illegal immigrants. I would like to dedicate 70% of my taxes into investigating Epstein. Let's make sure that that gets funded. They somehow came up with hundreds of millions of dollars to investigate whether or not Donald Trump was a Russian asset, just to have Mueller come along 2 years later and have Parkinson's and not be able to remember anything. But also, I would like to see an agency cleaning up fraud, and let's hold more of our politicians accountable for whatever schemes that they're involved in. And the fact that, like, we're even seeing these headlines is kind of promising that there's coverage for it, but it seems so widespread, and it seems like it would be pretty easy to muck crack. I mean, in this article, apparently some lady is claiming that it's like one of these Somalian daycares without any kids in there. All right, we got a couple more stories to cover. Before we do, let's thank another one of our sponsors, YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. Only place in the entire world that you can get a full kilo of kratom for just $60. Pickle Drick. Does Robbie talk to people that don't pay? I don't know what that means. I mean, at the moment on the show, we just read the public comments, and then we do about an hour-long episode, and then I do a half-hour behind the paywall on the solo episodes. It's all $5 a month to support the show, so I don't think we've iced the non-supporting listeners. With that said, in the near future, I have been sitting down with, aside from Producer Man, we're coming up with the Jew Squad to help figure out how to better monetize the show. And one of the ideas that we came up with was keeping the general episodes completely free and free for anybody to engage with and comment, but to start only taking comments off of the traffic that's actually on my website, which I think the negative is less people watching on YouTube, but I don't think the algorithm's ever really done us any favors anyways. And the idea of putting more people on the site that they might already be there and feel incentivized to sign up. So I don't know if that answers your question, but, you know, even in the future, for these episodes, I like enjoying with the live comments. I particularly like when I'm at a live show and someone comes up to me and tells me their YouTube handle. I'm like, oh yeah, I see you in my chat all the time. So we're going to be keeping that, public, free, and available to anybody for now. Junior toxicity. YouTube hates you for sure. Yes, I'm aware of that. No favors here. And particularly since COVID, I don't quite know how shadow banning works, but I'm fairly certain that we are fairly shadow banned. All right, let's delve into this next topic, which is Dems melting down over voter ID as DHS shutdown talks hits wall. And I've yet to hear a single good justification from these Democrats on why, in God's name, with all of the government bullshit that I have to deal with all of the time, which includes that my driver's license is not even good enough to get on a flight anymore. If I want to fly somewhere, my government-issued driver's license was not good enough for air travel, that I have to either travel with my passport or get an enhanced real ID. And every time I want to buy, I want to walk into a liquor store, I'm a bald-faced old man. And still, I got to show my ID. If a cop starts giving me a hard time, I guess you can play the card of I don't have to show you identification, but you're certainly stirring up some trouble if you don't. And the Dems are working hard to make sure that when you vote, you do not have to show ID for it, which isn't, I don't understand how you can possibly show up and partake in an election without actually showing that you are a United States citizen. I don't understand how anyone in government who loves government, they love keeping tabs on who's where, what's where, the dangers of if they don't know where we are, if we're not in compliance, that for the activity of voting, I think the Republicans need to flip this and just somehow find a massive amount of Canadian voters that want to vote for Donald Trump. And then immediately they're going to talk about how our democracy is being stolen by non-Americans voting in elections, and demand full facial and rectal scans as being the only way, which would be a good move by the Democrats if they had some sort of a prostate massager device to check your identification, and so only liberals who like things up their ass partook in elections. If you created a landscape where every single Republican thought that voting was gay, and the liberals and women of America were very intrigued to go and be able to vote, that would be a good way for them to steal the elections. But I have yet to see a single good argument for why it is unnecessary to be able to just show that you're an American citizen when you're voting. It doesn't make any, and then they say, well, it's too hard on the poor, and well, then fix that. Fix this. You're telling me that otherwise your ID process is racist, and so for every other activity that you need an ID for, you're not concerned with the racism that people confront by being unable to get an ID? How many other simple government activities are the Democrats supporting that are racist towards our citizens? How many simple government functions would poor people like to be able to take advantage of, but because Democrats don't have the will or desire to clean up the racist efforts of our government, or they're is the Democratic Party anti-poor, that they're creating a hindrance? How many other government activities create so many hoops and costs and expenses for poor people that aren't being cleaned up? I think I made my point. All right. This was from Raskin. Like I said, the absolute worst in government. Rasker voter ID law violates the 19th Amendment in denying the vote to women. So this is his new claim, is that a voter ID law violates the 19th Amendment. And this is his reason. CNN host Casey Hunt told Raskin that voter ID is supported by the majority of Americans, but there are Democrats on the Hill and you voted against this. Why not support voter ID? And he says, what's wrong with the SAVE Act? What's wrong with it is that it might violate the 19th Amendment. Firstly, he's got might. He doesn't even want to stand by his claim. Very lawyerly. It might. I'm going to shut down the need for identification for votes on something that it might do. I'm not actually saying it does it, but it might. Well, wouldn't you know that for sure? I mean, you're the government official. Wouldn't you know for sure that it was going to be a problem before you would shut it down? Anyways, it might violate the 19th Amendment, which gives women the right to vote, because you've got to show that all of your different IDs match. So if you're a woman who's gotten married and you've changed your name to your husband's name, but now your current name is different from your name at birth, well, then just fix that, or just create a carve out. I mean, you guys are government. Your entire thing is that you can run stuff. And so is this an admission that, yes, it would be a good idea to make sure that people are American citizens and make sure that they're not voting twice, and so to require a form of identification while you're voting? But it's impossible for us to do so because some people will have been married, and because they're married, they might have not matching identification. Okay, well then create a carve-out, or create one single form of identification, or a piece of paper that says, hey, I'm married, so this actually matches this. It seems like that's a very easy thing or problem to get around. All right, let's take a couple of comments, and then we can move on to our last topic. All right, gobble. Yeah. Afix, key way wrong. The core is affecting men and women equally, which is why Roe v. Wade was overturned, was a medical privacy law only affecting women. Not sure the relevance. Jimmy Dore has unvaccinated guy. Robbie has pickled Rick. All right, some of the comments today I'm not quite following, but maybe that's on me. All right, we're going to be real quick on this because, as I said, I have Gene coming on tomorrow, and I'm sure that we are going to get very deep into economics and the job reports. Thus far, I think that there aren't government job reports because of the government shutdown, which was probably convenient for Trump. But there's the Challenger report, which all of the news organizations are reporting on. And for strongest, best economy of all time, the report stated that layoffs are up 118% from the same period last year and 205% from December 2025. On the inverse side, employers added 5,306 jobs, the lowest since January 29. It's important to note that the Challenger began tracking labor data in January 2009, but at least at the moment, with the jobs data that we have, it does not seem to be a very strong job market. Now, in the last episode, I was talking about when are your factory jobs coming back? When are these tariffs suddenly going to create more factory jobs? What we saw was that the latest data is that factory jobs have been decreasing since Donald Trump is in office. There's no evidence to suggest that he's created more of these factory jobs that you guys also desperately want. But I took this from a recent David Stockman newsletter, which the way I understood it is that not only that, but construction on new factories is down as well. And so for those of you that have been holding out hope that maybe the factory jobs just aren't here yet, but they're out there, they're building the factories, you give Donald Trump enough time, that factory job is coming my way, at least according to this. And the way my dumb brain understood it is that at the moment, there is not an increase in building of factories. Now, this one I found interesting. It's from the Wall Street Journal opinion section, which I have definitely seen numerous articles that were completely wrong in. But this was interesting to me because down in Florida, they have the I forget the name of it, and it was at the top of the article. But basically, they got a program there that if you have over a certain amount of employees, you got to use E-Verify. Thank you, Producer Man. You see, Producer Man, he's stepping up his game since we had our little talk. You have to use E-Verify to show that all of your employees are actually American citizens. And before I read it, I'll just give you guys the short. But there's two things that are fascinating about this. The first is apparently the usage of E-Verify has gotten rid of a lot of work that was available to illegal immigrants. And so at least they've left Florida. And I don't know if they're just self-deporting to other states or they're self-deporting out of the country, or maybe they're just in hiding and making no money. But it seems that there are less illegal immigrants now in Florida because they're self-deporting on the basis that if they want work, employers are required to actually show that they're American citizens, which first takeaway is that maybe that's better than, slapping people on masks with guns, roaming streets with supposed warrants looking for criminals, and shaking down entire communities, is finding more peaceful mechanisms to just make it less easy to live in the United States of America as an illegal immigrant so that more people don't want to be here. But that all assumes that we don't actually want these people. And I'm sure we're going to get some of this information from Gene as well. I know that there's a lot of unemployed Americans out there, and a lot of you guys have the feeling that we need to get rid of all of the illegal immigrants in this country, at least until there's 100% United States labor employment. And I understand where you guys are coming from. I, however, think that there probably is more room for immigrant labor. Now, I don't think that we should have an open border, and I think that we do need widespread deportations to correct what Joe Biden did. I also think that maybe there's a more honest approach of government actually governing and figuring out what level of immigrant labor we need in this country. And I would also like to see the immigrant labor work here, pay taxes, not receive benefits, and not have children that then become anchor babies that can be American citizens. I'm all for second-class citizens that really just have to contribute to the country. And I think that there's an upside to that of a lot of things, goods and services being available for cheaper, which means that there's more money available to go spend on other things. And I think that there's plenty of opportunities for Americans to, hire these people, make more money, and spend more money in other places that are run by Americans. I don't think that this is entirely just a loss to our economy because every job is being taken by an illegal immigrant. And I do think that there is a demand for immigrant labor, and that there's a more honest way to figure out how many people we actually want from other countries working on farms, working in construction, working in restaurants, working in all these industries, and creating a goofy kind of black market scheme of you're not allowed to do that, but we're looking the other way, and every business needs it, but we all say that you can't have it, and that it's horrible if you do it. I mean, how many of you guys have friends that either have let me state this differently. Do you shame your friends that own businesses that are hiring illegal immigrants? Like, if you've got a relative who's got a housekeeper who's an illegal immigrant, do you say shame on you for not hiring an American? If you've got a friend with a successful construction business and he's hiring illegal immigrants, or if you've got a friend who owns a restaurant and he's got Mexicans in his kitchen, are you guys all outraged with him that he's against he's not a patriot, he's against the United States of America because he's not using all American workers and all American laborers? Do you hold people in your life to that standard? And do you hold yourself to that standard? Will you not support a business if you walk into the kitchen and you see that there's some Mexicans back there working? Do you want to see all their papers? Well, you want to know if they took somebody else's job? I mean, everyone, I guess, could vote with their dollars more, and maybe more businesses could put the 100% American hirees here. But anyways, my two takeaways here was that, one, I guess there seems to be a problem in Florida of finding workers to fill these jobs, but that also some of the more peaceful mechanisms, such as just making it tougher to be here illegally, is working in terms of, I guess, either self-deportations or people who just no longer want to live in Florida. That's enough of my brief commentary, just to be my brief summary before reading it, but let's read it. Employers in the state say they're struggling. Here, we can go full screen. We can do a read along here. Employers in the state say they are struggling to find workers they can employ legally. Non-citizens made up 1/3 of Florida's construction workforce and nearly half of farmhands. A large share of undocumented 2/3 of contractors in the state report labor shortages. For every 5 construction workers who retire, only 1 new worker is entering the field. Now, you might even want to consider, if we're nervous about food prices going up and lack of housing that's available, would we prefer more migrant workers, at least in those fields, so that you can have cheaper food and potentially cheaper construction costs to be able to build your own first home? And then additionally, if you were pro tariffs, do you prefer that, your lumber, your steel, and all the other costs involved in constructing something are going to go up as well? I mean, these are thoughts as well for anyone who's out here complaining about food prices. I know for myself, I can barely afford hotels the way they are now. I can only imagine what hotels would look like if you got rid of every single current maid at these hotels. All right, farmers say that many foreign workers left the state after the law passed. One farmer told Spectrum News in early 2024 that he needed more workers to pick strawberries, but they had purposely limited the size of his workforce to less than 25 workers to avoid having to use E-Verify. Talk about a perverse incentive for businesses not to expand. Now, I'm shocked that they're not figuring out how to use better Jew tricks of just making sure that there's 25 workers there at all time, and then just always pretending that they're the same 25 workers. Like, if you facial scanned all the Mexicans, you're going to tell me that that's not the same Mexican that was here yesterday? But instead of repealing the E-Verify mandate, Florida Republicans now want to extend it to all employers. The bill passed the State House last month. This will expose a lot of lawbreakers that are harming Floridians, harming law-abiding people who want to get into the workforce, House sponsor Benny Jack said. There's little evidence that undocumented migrants are taking jobs from Americans. The reality is that employers can't find enough Americans willing to work in the fields or hang drywall, even at attractive wages. Farmhands in Florida who work year-round earn roughly $47,000, which is more than what some young college graduates earn. which, like I said, Wall Street Journal opinion section. So maybe that last part is not true, but as reported by the Wall Street Journal, there are jobs available making $47,000 a year, and the employers of those jobs in industries that Americans, I think, need. If it comes to farmhands, we certainly need food. They're having a hard time staffing it, and now you might go, well, raise the wages to $80,000 so Americans will work it, which, I guess, what do we all want to pay for food if that's the case? And all right, I think I've had enough of that article. Let's take some comments. What do we got? Hi, Rob. I'm a big fan from Australia. Our police were beating the shit out of protesters the other day on behalf of Israel. Is there any country they don't have control over? I don't know enough about the politics in other countries, so I don't know what you guys were out. Maybe were you out there protesting Jews? I don't know what you guys were out there protesting. What was Rob's last job? Do you still have a job? My last job, and it was the job I did for about I quit my job last year, and for the prior 6 or 7 years, I was doing sales, probably the prior 6 years. And then prior to that, I did a lot of odd jobs, including manual labor. And oddly enough, when I did my manual labor job, I enjoyed it, but my company didn't give me enough hours. And I was upset about the Mexican laborers at that job and the fact that I couldn't get more work hours. So yeah, I've actually lived that experience. And now at the moment, I work very long days every day. And I basically scramble between podcasts, which I have to do a lot of reading and preparation for, stand-up comedy, which requires quite a bit of travel and 10 years or 12 years of experience, probably before I ever got paid to even do a single show on. I also produce comedy shows, and then I do a little bit of freelance sales, or maybe you could call it consulting work here and there. But dude, I kind of work all day, every day, and barely get by. So that's where I'm at. Affix. They are there, and also homes are most expensive ever, and so is food. So, tarded argument, in my opinion. I think what you meant to say is they are currently here, and homes are the most expensive ever, and so is food. Yeah, but does that assume that if you got rid of them, those costs would come down, and that perhaps they were a buffer against the prices going up more? It's actually one of those arguments in regards to inflation, is how much worse would price inflation have been if we didn't start importing as many goods as we did from other countries, or in some instances, if we were still, getting higher quality goods that lasted longer periods of time, like people talk of the refrigerators in the 70s that just worked for 30 years. What would the price inflation look like now if we were still purchasing stuff like that? So I don't think it's a retarded argument. I think, if anything, yes, there's been other factors that have driven up prices. There's zoning laws in housing, and there's also been policies by the government that has made, lowered interest rates and made funding otherwise available to boost home ownership. And yes, home prices are very expensive right now. And labor is not the only variable, but if you make labor more expensive, it's not going to make homes cheaper. Junior Toxicity, I remember how dirty hotels were during COVID since they laid off staffs at that time. I don't remember that they were dirty, except if you were making it like the room was clean when you got in, but once you got in there, they weren't cleaning it. Jack Dalton, yes, we're protesting that Israel president coming to visit. Affix, not that they would go down, but clearly haven't pushed it down more than regular inflation rates. Yeah, but I mean, it's like an unverifiable of like labor prices are clearly an aspect, and if labor prices were higher, it would be more expensive. Pickle Drick, Robbie picks random chats when we were having arguments in the chat log. Well, that's true. I kind of just hop in when I'm transitioning from topics. And I guess if you guys are in the middle of a side argument, maybe just label it side argument. All right, last topic for today, and we're gonna close it out with some good old fashioned nonsense talk. But I love this. Out in Pittsburgh, they got a system where basically if you shovel a car spot in the snow, that is now your car spot, and you got to respect the chair system. They got a chair system that you throw a chair out there, and once that chair is out there, that means it's yours. And I love a good system amongst people that people can agree, here's the etiquette, here's the system, no questions asked, this is where we're at. And I think I've said before, I'd almost like to advocate for more signs so that, on some of these things, the social etiquette is just a known. Like, don't have full business conversations and Zoom calls right next to people in the airport. That exact language, put that on a sign. Put it right there. Every single, I always want to pull the Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm move when some guy's eating lunch alone. He's got the earpiece in. He's having a full conversation. So Larry David just starts talking very loudly next to him, and the guy starts getting upset. I've frequently wanted to do something similar and pretend like I'm having an important business meeting right next. And there's something, too, if someone started their business meeting and then you sit next to them, it's way more flagrant when you were already sitting there and then they sit down next to you and then just open up their computer to take a Zoom call. I don't know how people have the confidence. I used to work jobs where I needed to have those kind of calls in the airport, and I would try and find a quiet area or tell them, hey, I'm going to have to hit you back later. I'm in the airport right now. But here are, I was back to traveling this past week, and I had a great time out in Key West. Man, was it fun out there. Just when you're in the freezing cold, going out there, just riding around on a bicycle, swimming in the ocean, just like being out and about. It was a nice time, and the shows were fun out there. Tom runs a great thing over there at Key West, and it's one of the I'm excited to get to headliner level so that maybe I could do more days down there. Anyways, here are some that just I would like to see fixed and came up in my recent travel experiences. For anyone new to the show, we've documented quite a few travel gripes, but a shot clock for ass in someone's face, which is, listen, a lot of times in life, we're in tight quarters. When you're at like a baseball game and you got to walk down the aisle, your ass is going to be in someone's face. That's the system that we have. If you get up from your seat on an airplane and you got to try and fiddle and get to some of your stuff, your butt's going to be in someone's face. But that's got to be like an under 10-second thing. There's got to be a shot clock here for how much time you can comfortably spend with your ass in someone's face. I get it. We're in tight quarters. Every once in a while, a butt's going to end up in somebody's face, and that's the way it's going to work. But that doesn't mean that you could spend 10 minutes with your ass in someone's face. You can't spend forever fiddling with your stuff. I would love an actual, every time someone stepped into the aisle, if they had an actual shot clock there and a horn went off and we shamed the person. And I feel like we do need to figure out, listen, social credit scores are coming anyways, all right? And if they're going to track all our behavior and they're going to implement their things that are important to them and making sure that we're aligned with it, I would like a variable in there for just stupid behavior, because there's a lot of stupid people out there that don't acknowledge that they're idiots. And they just keep going on their lives without any acknowledgement of the fact that they're stupid people. And here's like another simple one. I fully understand that sometimes a bathroom latch is just the old school bathroom latch, and unless you're poking your head underneath, you're trying to figure out it, you can't tell if someone's in or not in the stall, and so you got no choice but to push on the door and realize, oh, that door is locked. But sometimes technological developments are actually better. More often than not, they ruin simple things that have been great forever. My car radio, I used to listen to a lot more radio. And then I got a new car 2 years ago because my last car broke. And now it's got a digital dial that literally doesn't work. I don't know how to operate the radio in my car. It used to be there was a physical thing, and I could do this. I could set my pre-stations. I could scan from there. And I actually preferred radio to my YouTube music, because since I've gotten off the radio and I'm just listening to stuff on YouTube music, I'm just listening to too much of the stuff I already know, and I find I don't get enough of the random time spent on the classic station with the symphony orchestras, the jazz station, and finding about old school jazz artists, the blues station. There was sometimes you were by the colleges, you started listening to heavy metal. Every once in a while, you're in a market that had like a new rock station. You could hear some of the new rock bands, even though it's close to a dead genre. And yes, sometimes the algorithm feeds me stuff that I'm not aware of, but for the most part, I definitely came across more new music, and sometimes new music meaning old music that I just hadn't heard when I was in the radio. And that they clearly made a lot worse with these digital radio dials that literally don't work. So more often than not, they tinker with things too much, they try and make it better, and they just ruin it. But the little red or green outside of a stall to let you know whether or not someone is in there is a very simple, self-explanatory system. It doesn't need a lot of explanation. If you're a person of an average IQ, you should be able to look at that and instantly go, green means go, red means stop. Shouldn't need a class on that. You should be able to, in one glance, be able to see door closed, red, must be occupied. Oh, they're all red. I guess they're all occupied. Oh, look, this one's red, that one's green. I guess the green one must be open. Very simple system here. And I can't tell you how often I'm making use of one of those stalls and you're seeing someone being a little bit aggressive on the outside. What is this, closed? Is it a closed door? Why isn't this an open door? Oh, I guess someone's using it. And I feel like those people, I was forced to retake driver's ed. It was maybe a 3-hour class because of some bullshit speeding ticket I got in upstate New York. I couldn't go to the court date, and the lawyer who decided not to fight my case, and I had a clean driving record, and so if I took this 3-hour driver's ed class, which was the most boring and dumb thing, and also at the beginning of it, it was very obnoxious because it started off with a 20-minute lecture about how aggressive driving is actually antisocial behavior. And I was like, shit, am I going to have to sit through some Chinese propaganda class where I have to repeat back to them and sign documents about how fast driving is antisocial behavior? And and it was funny because, this is how stupid they are. They're like, the entire course is to demonstrate to you that aggressive driving is actually antisocial behavior. And it was all this etiquette nonsense about how you were an asshole because you got some bullshit speeding ticket. And then, of course, they just dropped that after the first 20 minutes and then moved on to common sense driving things that you couldn't just take the quiz. You had to actually sit there and watch the entire video explanation of things that you already knew just so that you could take the quiz and get an 100 on it. And you're like, can I just take the quiz part and show you guys that this thing is nonsense? But you couldn't. You had to actually clock in and sit there and watch the whole thing for the 20 minutes. And so I would love it if they did courses like that for stupid people. Make these people sit in a class on how doors work. You catch the guy 3 times checking a red door, and then you force him to take a Sunday and go watch the door class. All right, that is the end of our public episode. I'll take some comments in a minute, but for those that want to come over for subscribers only, we're going to start off in 5 minutes. Today we've got the Even More Reckless Show. And topics for today will include, have the Mexicans gotten too comfortable, and is Puerto Rico a psyop for integration, and more reactions to Bad Bunny waving his dick at us? The next is it time for a personal rebound and more combative shit talking? Then we're going to explore if Kid Rock is cool or ever was cool. And then last is, what's the etiquette on if you're calling shit on people who are grieving, which is a tough one. So I'm going to have a fresh seltzer, put a zin in my mouth, take a leak, and you guys can join me in 5 minutes. We'll be over at robbernsteincomedy.com for the Even More Reckless Show. Thank you for hanging out with us. Junior Toxicity. Buttons are better than touchscreens. More often than not, I would agree with you. Junior Pickledrick. He doesn't watch the chat while live. Well, I kind of do. Every once in a while, I'm in the middle of talking. I ADD. I see what's there, and I address it on the fly. But for the most part, I groove a little bit. I do the topic. I come back to the chat. I read a couple random comments. Sometimes I have no idea what you're talking about. Sometimes things are right on the money. And, that's kind of the flow here. Jack Burden, hit that thumbs up, lads, and the one last. Yes, I don't know what the last part was, but please hit the thumbs up, rate, review, subscribe, email your grandmother, spread the word. Jack Dalton, thanks, Rob. Appreciate your service. And thank you, sir. All right, that's our episode. Give it about 5 minutes, then we'll be live over at robbernsteincomedy.com.